What up? Welcome back. Season 3 Dealer Talk podcast. Super excited to be back. It's been a minute, but we are ready to go. Man, is this season going to be a good one? The lineup is hot, and we're going to be talking about some topics that we haven't covered before. Like, we're going to look at independence. We're going to talk about finance. We're going to talk about recruiting and training. And yeah, I'm very, very excited for this season. All right, so episode 1, we wanted to kick things off with a bang, man. We have a great guest. This person has been on the show before. Somebody that I respect, somebody that I follow, and I'm a fan of his content. Met him on LinkedIn a few years ago, and I've just been a fan of him ever since, man. So we're going to be also talking about a topic that I'm very familiar with, and that's third-party sites and inventory listing sites. Now, I kind of wanted to start with this topic because it's a topic that I get a lot of questions on when I consult, right, with the stores that I'm working with. Obviously, as you know, I've worked for the biggest one, if you will, in the industry, and yeah, man, my personal take, my personal philosophy is this. I think that there's value there, right? And I think that all dealerships should be on as many of those sites that they can afford to be on. For one, they have an audience, right? And people go there to get information. And if you're not there, then you're not even a consideration, right? And then the other reason is the validation that they provide. I hate saying that because I love this industry, but it's the truth, right? I mean, consumers want an outside source to validate their decision, if you will. And so that's the value that these sites provide. But from there to some of the extras and how those sites are budgeted and things like that, I think that's where it gets a little difficult for me. But I think that this company in particular that we're going to be reviewing today, they have a different approach, man. And that's why I wanted to have them on the show. I think that they have a different way of looking at things. I like the fact that they're brand new. They're coming into this looking at things from a different perspective. And who knows? I mean, this could be the beginning of a change, right? And I think that a lot of these sites, they just kind of rode the wave, man. They were innovative at one point, and they just kind of got stuck there, and they didn't take advantage of that momentum and keep evolving and keep growing. And so, and we're going to get into it, man. We're going to review it on the site, on the episode, excuse me. We're on the session. We're going to look at kind of where we are in the industry right now and where it could potentially go and what this company has to offer that's a little bit different. As you know, every season we have two companies that we review or two new solutions that we feel could make an impact in the industry. And so I'm just excited to get into it. Without further ado, man, let's just check out the episode. Welcome back, season 3. If you haven't done so, please make sure to share this episode, share this podcast with somebody that can benefit from the information so they can take it back to the dealership and implement in their day-to-day. That's all I got. Let's do it. Here we go. Let's check it out. What up? Welcome back. Season 3, Dealer Talk, episode 1. Man, super excited to be back. This is your host, Herb Anderson, and my co-host, Mr. Eric, the Viking Nelson. What's up, Eric? How are you, man?
Oh, wonderful. And look, man, this is going to be a great season. I'm pretty excited about season 3, right? I mean, we're gaining some attention, which is kind of cool. We have some big names, and we have the biggest name tonight. It's just like a big like an avalanche. Oh my gosh, Herb, I just came up with that. It's like an avalanche, bro. Okay, it's picking up speed. There's mass. I mean, it's not a lot to look at maybe initially, but all the episodes and sessions, they pile up on you, and they just hold you together. It's just it's a lot of information holding you together. You can't, you try and fight out of it, but here's the deal. It's a lot of information. Yeah, man. I'm going with Avalanche. I'm at ideas right there, but Avalanche is where I'm at.
Right on, man. So we took a little break. May, I think, was the last episode we published. Dude, I'm excited, man. Like you said, we have some great guests. I think the conversations are really, really good for the times, in particular, just, where the industry's at and kind of where things are kind of headed. We got a nice mix, man. We're talking a lot about fixed ops this season, which, I obviously love. And we have some new technology. We have two pieces of technology that we're going to be talking about in the show and reviewing. One of them is going to be tonight. And so I'm really, really excited for this one. And again, man, I'm just excited to be back, dude. It's been awesome. It's been an awesome 2 seasons, and I'm ready to get the third one rolling.
Yeah, if you pay attention to Herb, you can see that his world is ever evolving in this type of platform, right? Where he's getting more comfortable being on camera. He's sharing a lot more insights into how thoughts go through his head. So this is just it's fun to be part of the wave, bro.
Yeah, man. Thanks, dude. Yeah, and like I said, man, it's exciting. It's really, really, really cool. And let's just keep going, man. Let's keep rolling. So the guest that we have on the show tonight is no stranger, somebody that we've had on the show before. I'm excited to have him on the show and to kind of kick things off with him, because we're going to be talking about something that I have a lot of experience on, and that's kind of third-party sites, but third-party sites with a twist. We're going to kind of be looking at some of the deficiencies and some of the potential solutions, or some of the potential way that maybe it could evolve into something that's a little bit more interactive, and where dealers can engage with it a little bit more. Before we make the introduction and get rolling here, I just kind of want to get your take on that, man, because I know you're kind of going through some changes yourself. I mean, you have a new role at the dealership. You're looking more at the marketing side of things and paying a little bit closer attention to those metrics. And I just kind of wanted to start off with your take on the third party sites. Like, what do you see? Obviously, it's a necessity, right? I've been on Sean Welsh's show. We did an episode exclusively about third party sites. We've kind of reviewed them on our show a little bit, and I've always said that I see a ton of value, and that I do believe that every single dealership should be on them in some way, shape, or form. What is your take on it? Are you getting some activity from it? And what are your maybe frustrations, or maybe one frustration overall that you see with it?
Well, the frustration is that they're conveniently necessary at this point, right? But I think with the guests we have coming on today, what's nice, the interaction between an immediate interaction between the customer and the actual person at the dealership that we're trying to shop a vehicle for, or we have a question about a vehicle, or maybe we have a question in service. I think this is where, and I just want to jump into it, because I think that what his insights and what he's doing needs to be talked about, because even though the third party sites are necessary, they're just kind of void of emotion. They're just there's no personal attention quite frankly, from the dealership standpoint. It is something that we do have to utilize at this point again, but I don't know. Value is a tricky word there. I wouldn't place much value. It's just it's necessary, I guess. I hate using that word, but man, it's just the truth.
Yeah, I like that. I think you're onto something there. When I say value, I just mean that.
Yeah.
I think the dealer should be on there. Should they be on there and pay these high prices and stuff? No, I think that the inventory should do all the talking. But I feel like if there's an audience, then your inventory should be there, right? At least you get a chance to raise your hands. But anyway, let's get into it, man. Let's get this guest on the show.
Let's go.
So the guest that we have today for the first episode of season 3 is the one and only Mr. Bill Schomburg. Bill, what's up?
Hey guys. And the crowd goes wild. I used to get introductions like that in the horse arena,
Yes.
and usually after I had accomplished something that I was pretty proud of.
Dude,
I don't know that I've ever been prouder of being back with you guys.
I'm sorry to cut you off, man, but do you know that your episode, and I think I've mentioned this before, but people,
Yes,
when they reference a podcast, they always reference that, the horse trainers episode. It's one of those episodes that people talk about a lot.
Well, I love that aspect, and actually I've had to embrace that a little bit more personally. The Viking encouraged me in that part, but it's who I am. I mean, it's about my integrity. It's about my ability to learn and adapt. And if I have any value, then to be able to offer that to others. So a great training ground. And I think I said it on that first episode, everything I know about people I learned from a horse, and it's still true. It's transferred across the roles that I've played in industries, and it's especially valuable in automotive. So I'm really grateful to be back, guys.
well, good to have you back.
Yeah, man. So are we, man. It's great to have you on the show. So typically I kick off with the recap, but I think people for the most part know who you are. So let's maybe talk about what you've been up to the last year since you were on the show, and kind of kick things off that way.
Okay.
And make sure to tie it into third-party sites. I mean, we want to make sure we keep that, front and center, and how and what it is that you're doing and how it applies to that. That's good.
Okay. Well, we'll kind of build a road that way. So, things that have taken place. So my education around automotive is still, the learning curve continues. I've been so blessed by the people like yourselves, Sean Welsh. There are too many to name. And if I started, I'd leave somebody out. But everybody through LinkedIn, I'm more active on Facebook these days. Everybody is helpful, willing to share their knowledge, furthering what I'm trying to accomplish. And I want to be clear, the role that I play in the project that we're working on, I'm a corporate strategist. The piece that we'll eventually get to talking about Lot Talk is the brainchild of my brother. And everybody, it always seems kind of weird to say that, hey, the guy I work for is my brother, but without his vision and experience, we wouldn't have a company. So I want to be clear on that part. But when we spoke last time, we were still in exploratory is the wrong word, but we hadn't actually built or launched a product. And as we progress between really about where we were this time and today, we have brought that vision of my brother and his experience to a product. It's in the market. We're receiving great feedback and engagement. Dealers are engaging with us, signing up. And so it's that, if you imagine the birth of a child, conception through gestation, and then the actual, that day of launch, and then, wow, the vision is complete. It's in action. And in software development, you might be familiar with the term MVP. Everybody thinks that is most valuable player. Well, in software, it's minimum viable product. You've got to create something. Usually the budget is low. Ours was that way. We bootstrapped everything we've done. But it brought the vision to life, and it proved out that the vision is viable. And so we're in the process of moving that forward. But just to have it, know that it's accepted, know that it's being utilized. As fathers, you both know that feeling. So it's a pretty cool place to be. It's been one hell of a year. Let's put it that way.
For sure. So we do, or it's kind of becoming now a custom of the podcast. But we pick two companies that we see are kind of starting out, innovative, and we get them on the show to talk about their, what they're up to, and kind of give a little brief description. So obviously, you guys are on, and we have somebody else towards the middle of the season. But I really wanted to get you guys on to talk about your project for a couple different things. Number one is because I have experience in that space, right? I was, I used to be a rep for a third party site, and it's something that I feel I kind of have a good grasp on, and I was excited to get you on. And in particular, I wanted to start with the kind of like I was asking Eric, like, right, the deficiency sides of the third party sites. And what I mean by that is, for example, like I remember when I was with Cox Automotive and working for Auto Trader, that one of the things that dealers used to say to me a lot, right? Because we'd walk in there with these reports and we talked about VDPs, right? That was the thing. Like, oh, you got all these views on the cars and stuff. And the decision makers would be like, oh, that's awesome, but the car's still here, right? Why don't you give me the information of that customer so that we can have a conversation so that I can reach out and I can be proactive. And I know we're going to get into that later on, but I just kind of wanted to get your take on where were the holes, or what did you guys envision as the opportunity, and kind of creating this solution, and what would it, how do you see that kind of filling the void, if you will, of what's currently available?
Sure. Yeah, perfect place to start. So a little bit of background on my brother's experience. Outside of Omaha, Nebraska, in 2001, there was a two-store rooftop group called Woodhouse, and they had a Ford and a Chrysler store. And they the owner, Bob Woodhouse, and a visionary sales manager hired my brother to assist them with technology that they could see coming. They had no idea what it was going to look like or how they were going to utilize it. So they brought a guy in-house, my brother John, to assist them. And those two stores grew to 7. And in particular, the units moved per month, those two original stores moving around 70 units in 2001. They were both grown to over 1,000 units a month, a record month of 1,200 in one of the stores in about 4.5 years, and they maintained that level for another, let's say 4 or 5 years. They competed with, everybody knows Gallup and Ford out in California. So they competed monthly against that kind of, that level. And in the process, so again, 2001, the internet's just around. Nobody knows what to do with it. There aren't all the tools there were today. So whatever technology was developed, it was built in-house, and my brother was in charge of that. So the keys to what they were doing, they ignored basically what the OEM rep would come in and tell them. There's one vivid story of a particularly large vendor. Rep was in-house and sitting across the desk from the sales manager, and he said, "You can't do business without us." And the sales manager picked up his scissors and cut the cord in front of him to the computer, and he said, "How's that? Get out of my office." and I don't mean that people should just be disrespectful, but on the dealer's side, dealers do what? They know how to sell cars. That's what they're in business to do. Technology is supposed to serve them, but it's kind of like the bill of goods that we were sold when all of a sudden everybody had to have a computer, right? We were told you're going to save paper, you're going to be more efficient with your time, etc. Well, if you look 18 years later from 2001, 2019, we're all more distracted, less efficient, need more training, never up to date on technology. We're serving technology. Technology is not serving the dealers or any other industry for that matter.
I want to.
Now,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I kind of want to explore that. What do you mean by that? Because that's kind of an interesting concept.
well, I think Brian Benstock says it best. Brian Benstock, Paragon Honda, he was interviewed, or I read an article where he said, how many cars did the average salesman sell in the 80s? And the answer is 8 to 10. How many cars does the average salesman sell today? 8 to 10. And his point is, all of this supposed change that's taken place, nothing's changed. The total number of cars, if you look at a historical cycle analysis of that, the cycle is still the same. You have a high and low about every 5 years. And yes, lots and lots of different factors play into those numbers. But the reality is the cycle hasn't changed all that much. His point is we've trained salespeople. Brian's point in particular is we've trained salespeople to try to use technology better, but we haven't made them better salespeople. They don't need the technology to be better salespeople. The technology is a distraction, and that's what he was trying to point out. We've taken away the core aspects, relationship building, the steps to the sale. We've removed the focus on that and put it on technology. It's viewed as a solution when it's really just a bright, shiny object. And if we focused on the core aspects, we'd be way better off.
And how do we tie in the like third party sites in particular, or listing sites where you have your inventory and kind of the where that stands today in the market?
Great point. So you referenced AutoTrader, which at the time the internet, 1997, I think, is when AutoTrader first listed anything on the internet. And AutoTrader historically was an advertising medium. When it was a paper in your local coffee shop, everybody grabbed the paper and looked for a car. And what did you have to do? You had to call or you had to drive there. You didn't have any other options, right? I guess you could send a fax. But when they put everything online, they used the same advertising model, but they missed the true opportunity. What they did, you would never, as a dealer, you'd never allow a competitor to park a vehicle on your lot. Well, AutoTrader has evolved to where your competitor, through an advertising model, can buy their vehicle. They can put their vehicle on the advertisement that's used for your vehicle. You'd never allow that in a physical situation.
Yeah, but that's also cars and Goodyears and all the listing sites, essentially, right? That I know of.
Yep, it goes for the model has not changed at all. It's just got a different name on it with different companies and little variant twists and yep. So the second part is when it was a newspaper and you had to call each store. Well, the tweak that happened with the internet, AutoTrader figured out they could, or implemented the aspect, customer fills out a lead form, let's charge other dealers and let them buy that same lead. So it's at that point that the value of the lead started to decrease. It became diluted. And then when the ability to scrape data, and it's kind of that swag term, technical. I can't exactly tell you how data gets scraped, but bots go in and steal steal is probably the wrong word, harvest the pertinent data off your inventory, and then it's decrypted and coded onto another site. So now you have two ways that the inventory is deleted, and that's just if there are two people doing it. There's hundreds today. You all know that, and anybody listening knows when a lead comes in, the first thing a dealer has to do is know their merchandising well enough that they know the value of that lead. The problem with knowing and determining the value of that lead, there's so many factors. You're spending as much time determining the value of the lead that you would have spent proactively selling a car. So you've either increased the number of people in your store, or you've taken away from your salespeople time doing what they're trained to do, sell a car. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yes.
So that's an oversimplified explanation, but it's accurate. The 2.5 years that I've spent learning about this industry, I'm always looking at the high level and then either confirming or affirming or disputing what I think I've learned. And that's in real life conversations with, again, people like yourself, GMs, GSMs at stores, digital principals. And then people, again, like you and Eric. Sean Welsh is another key confidant that I speak to a lot to gauge whether or not my innate cynicism has taken over. If you relate that back to the horse business, show me a bald-faced, blue-eyed Palomino horse, and I'm going to run the other way. So they're no fun to train. So those are the challenges. But remember, we're talking about people. People are still selling cars. People are still buying cars. People still own dealerships. People still run and manage those same parts. So if you take the human factor out, all you're left with is tools, not solutions, that are costing you more money each month and a year. That's a historical fact. Prices have gone up on technology, not down. And the choices, so not only should technology serve you, it should be easy to understand. Instead, we have data analysts, we have all of the tools and all of the people that are needed to explain what the tool is doing. Well, you know what the innate risk is? If the vendor selling you the tool is having to explain to you what it's doing, how's that going to get skewed? The reports are going to be skewed in the vendor's favor. It doesn't make them bad people. They've just taken advantage of a niche in the market.
Right.
Well, and this is kind of an expansion to that thought, and I think you kind of mentioned it, or I know you did a little bit in, when we first started talking about kind of like the opportunities here. But I kind of wanted to explore this from your perspective. But what do you, oversaturation in these mediums, right? I think that's a key component that it's not discussed often enough. But like you said, I mean, or like Eric said earlier, it's necessary, right? It's necessary to kind of partake in these. And you guys know how I feel about it, but is it?
I think I know where you're headed. Let me finish that one piece off.
Okay, go ahead.
So the necessary piece, absolutely. If you don't do it, your competition's going to. So now we're keeping up with the Joneses. And the last factor that comes into play, the OEMs with their co-op money, talk about peeing in the pool. I mean, it's one of those, how could it be any more suspect when the OEMs don't understand any more about it than the dealers do? Everybody thinks they do, but they really don't. And the proof of why that is, it's taken a while for the kind of the stink to come to the surface, but all of a sudden, if you follow any internet blogs, Facebook groups, any of those kind of things, somebody's going to complain about it. If you just post, just ask a question, what do the people in the group think about vendor X? And it doesn't matter what you fill in the blank with. You're going to get the range of emotion of they suck to they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and everything in between. And it doesn't matter which one you reference. Everybody's had good experiences, bad experiences, the whole range of emotions. And however the OEMs decide how that co-op money gets distributed, when dealers really don't know, and they don't know enough to even know the right questions to ask. Again, not their fault. They sell cars. They trust, whether it's through a 20 group, other DPs that they formed relationships with. They got to trust somebody. The problem is all of the technology tools are designed by people who have been in the industry. They created a solution that worked really well in either their store or a group of stores, and boom, they had a business. It doesn't make them bad products, but the implementation, the vast differences. I think in our first episode, I referenced the idea that it appeared to me every rooftop is an island, whether they're a single store by themselves or they're part of a large group. They're still an island. All the market differences, despite the ability to make the cookie cutter actually work, there's no way it can. Not a knock on people who are trying, but it's a very rare circumstance where one size fits all. It's almost impossible to do. I don't care how good you are.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I really like what you said about kind of how they had that solution for that particular moment in time. And then they had a business, but where's the evolution of that, right? Where's the evolution of that technology or that solution? And here, and it's kind of to tie it back to what I was saying earlier, but now I just feel like there's oversaturation in a lot of these sites, and so how does that make it fair for the dealer, right? When you have all this, there's just so much inventory and a lot of it is repetitive, right? I mean, you have your high scarcity vehicles and that's a way where dealers can differentiate themselves. And if they merchandise and price, okay, I get that. But when everybody starts to do those things, then what do? I mean, how do you differentiate yourself if you can't be proactive? Right? As a dealer, when you're on these third-party sites, you can't really be proactive. You hope that person clicked and saw you, and the algorithms or whatever put that piece of inventory in, or if maybe in some sites, if you pay more for presence or spotlighted ads and things like that, then you have a little bit of an edge or an advantage. But for the most part, I don't know. I think that is an issue as well, because how do you play into that? I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? I mean, do you see that as an issue? Is that something that potentially something that you guys considered in your current project?
Well, so we're back to my brother's experience. They looked at everything. Technology was to be used to replicate the in-store experience by the customer and to drive as many customers to the physical property as possible. Today we have conversations about digital retailing and tools that do that very well, but that's still a very, very small percentage of the market. And for everybody that's listening, I may sound like I'm making really coarse generalizations. I probably am, but because automotive is so diverse, I mean, we're back to the island concept. If there's 17,000 new car rooftops or new car stores in the United States, there's 17,000 islands out there. And the harder we work to try to cookie cutter the approach to them, the less successful that the efforts are going to be, the more that market compression is going to, some stores are really going to rise through the clutter and do really well. And in my experience, the stores that do that, almost without fail, have built a great culture. People like coming to that stores. And I'll give you a quick example that the historical piece of my brother's experience matches those stores doing that well today. At Woodhouse, they became known as, if you drove up to the store, if a woman was driving the car, people would wait to see if they would come out and open the car door. And the training at Woodhouse was a customer never touches a door, whether it's the car door on their car, the car they're looking at to buy, getting into it, coming into the store, the door is always open for the customer. Those employees were trained to the level of, as a car approached and it was a woman driving, the first thing that the individual sales force And all of the people in the dealership, whether it was a porter, whatever it was, they were trained to look and see if the woman was wearing a skirt or pants. And if she was wearing a skirt, you stand in one place to open the door. And if she's wearing pants, you stand in a different place. That's how deep the level of training went. And it was ingrained in the employees, every level, no matter how high or low. And every single aspect of customer service and customer experience was trained on, reinforced, and ingrained. And along the way, if people decided they didn't like that culture, well, then they would self-select. Not for me, guys, I'm headed out. But the people who stayed, that's the service level experience, the customer service level experience that every guest of the store was brought to. So in the online experience, again, remember 2001 progressing up to about 2012 is when my brother left that store or left that group. Every single thing, technology-wise, as the experience was designed to represent and replicate that same experience. The online experience had to be as close to the physical store experience as possible. So when they improved, an incremental improvement, it's a dynamic thing, it's never static. If they'd make an adjustment and it wasn't working, they'd know within about 30 days. They could tell because that's how closely they were tracking their numbers. So everything was looked at and adjustments were made. Things that worked well, they did more of. Things that weren't working as well as they expected, they did less of. They eliminated.
That came from internally, which is fantastic.
Yes.
Let me ask you this, because I from a vendor's perspective, the vendor's perspective of a dealership, is that failing pays. What I mean by that is that vendors they're not really interested in, they want to talk about creating new customers. It's very rare when you find a vendor talking about really focusing on the customers you already have, correct? So the bottom line is that, and that's why the OEMs and manufacturers, they're not going to talk to you about, really just working with what you have, working within your community. Those are things you have to do from the internal standpoint. This is why I'm such a big fan of Herb's, because he talks about this all the time. Just focus on the customers you already have, right? So, what is, because I want to get into Lot Talk. What's the bridge then? What is it exactly that Lot Talk is going to provide as the bridge?
Perfect segue. So the vendors created the idea of leads. You didn't talk much about leads 20 years ago. You talked about ups. Nobody ever questioned the value of an up walking through your door, right? That person's there on your property. They didn't come to buy a snow cone. They came to buy a car. Lot Talk translates the ability of the salespeople who are trained, and in some cases, some processes in stores today, it'll be a BDC. But that initial online engagement, customers, buyers today, they're well trained in online technology. They're the ones that are driving these changes. The way it's been implemented currently has missed that opportunity. Lot Talk is not a lead creator. If a dealer signs up on Lot Talk and waits for leads to come in, they're going to be in one of those Facebook groups and they're going to be bad-mouthing Lot Talk up and down. But if they have trained their sales force or their BDC to engage well in an online conversation, typing back and forth to really bring it down to the core level, and they know how to engage that buyer in a conversation, not if a buyer types in a comment on a piece of inventory. I guess let me go back a little bit and describe the setup. So to the uninitiated eye, Lot Talk's going to look very much like an inventory listing service. The difference is once a buyer has completed a search and arrived at a VDP page, the big difference on that VDP page is the opportunity for the buyer to engage directly with a salesperson on that page. They can create a communication thread, just like in Facebook or any other of the online tools. Match. We took the best of the online opportunities and combined them. We also eliminated some of the other flaws. Another dealer, they cannot buy their inventory onto your piece of inventory's page. It's just like AutoTrader was as a magazine, but the engagement piece is critical. So think of the term lifestyle engagement. If a salesperson, when a customer walks onto the physical lot and they walk up to say, "What brings you here today?" "Yeah, I came to buy a snow cone." So automatically the conversation's off to a poor start. But again, we're back to the experience. Let's say the employees were trained to notice man and a woman gets out of a car and approaches, notice that the man is holding the woman's hand, notices that there's wedding rings, notices the style of dress, not to gauge the level or the ability of a person to buy a car, but to be able to compliment them, engage them in a conversation so that they start building a relationship. That same aspect translates to the engagement conversation on Lot Talk that's possible. It also relates to the speed of the engagement. Lot Talk is a mobile app as well as a website. So the dealership employee, they'll have an app on their phone. If a buyer engages with a piece of inventory and leaves a message and selects a salesperson, they'll get a notification on their phone, just like a messaging app on your mobile device.
There's another piece, Bill, that I definitely wanted to mention here, because it was one of the things that I saw and I went like, wow, this is cool.
Well, to your credit, sorry for the interruption. To your credit, Herb, you were one of the early individuals that we engaged with, and you grasped the opportunity. So I would love to hear what it was, piqued your interest.
Yeah. So, I thought it was really, really unique. I thought it was cool. And it was, and I mean, obviously it's been a couple of months, but it just, it refreshed my memory. This is incorrect, but So somebody's engaged with a piece of inventory, they commented or whatever, and that comment is sitting there.
Yep.
And I can come in from a different dealership and interact with that person. Right. I can be like, hey, I see that nobody's responded to you.
Correct.
I have the same piece of inventory.
Correct.
And send them information.
Yes. So one of the key aspects.
So
go ahead.
Let me just evolve the thought really quick. So why I like that so much, and I think I mentioned it to you and your brother at the moment I saw it, is because now with an opportunity like that, that's going to force the dealership or whoever the champion for this solution is at a dealership, is it's going to force them to interact, or then the penalty is they have the potential to lose that communication by not acting on it soon, quick, based on the experience that we're talking about, right? The digital experience. So somebody sends an a request for information on a specific piece of inventory, and if you're not on it, then you've opened up the door to somebody else that is on it to kind of take that up. Right? Am I understanding that correctly?
You're dead on. So what you're referring to is the conquest opportunity. And in today's market, the market's under compression. Everybody knows that. The salesperson who we've trained, because that's part of there's no extra cost to our training. It's part of what we do, because it's really so simple. It's just giving people the information around the opportunities. A salesperson at a store with a competing piece of inventory, they can't actually interrupt a conversation with another store and a salesperson and buyer. But if they see a lag, somebody's posted a comment, wants more information, if that person, either there's a lag in the response or it's a poor response, poor quality response, that competing salesperson can invite the potential buyer They can send them an invitation to have a conversation and engage them in the opportunity to sell them a different vehicle. That's exactly right. So we're back to the experience part.
I love that.
Those conversations were taking place anyway. The
Yes.
dealers just didn't have knowledge of them. We all hear the stories about a customer getting abandoned or left alone by a salesperson multiple times, going to the box or to talk to his manager. What's that person doing that's left alone? They've investigated other opportunities to buy vehicles with different stores. If they're left alone, they're talking to that other store, either verbally making a phone call, texting a salesperson online. All Lot Talk does is expose the opportunity.
Yeah, no, I think that's brilliant. It's definitely a differentiator, and you're absolutely right. I mean, it's not like it's not happening, right? If you that's why I hate chat, right? Because it's just you send a chat, that information sits there for long, a long period of time, and that's a negative impact to the customer before they even ever put a foot inside your dealership, and that now they're gone, right?
Exactly, and the market has evolved. Technology has driven the market, not the dealers. Again, because they sell cars, they're a franchisee. The OEM drives some of the solutions. No one has proactively taken that's too general a statement. There are some real high quality tools in the marketplace that if they're managed correctly, dealers are really hitting home runs with them. I'm not going to say all technology is bad, and I don't think that either.
No, of course.
We just saw an opportunity to, even though we're a third party vendor, we've tried to remove the middleman aspect of lead providers. Leads are, and this isn't new. I'm just saying it out loud, probably louder than most will. We've eliminated the need for a dealer to evaluate the quality of a lead. The same way that you don't question an up walking into your physical store, if someone is posting a comment on your piece of inventory on Lot Talk, they're trying to buy a car. They're not on there looking for snow cones. There's a backstory to the horse part from the snow cones, but I think it's an accurate reference. Squirrel. There we go.
Again with the snow cones. I don't know. It's too much.
Hey man, I think we could talk. I was going to say, I mean, we're getting close to that time. I think we could talk about this for hours. I really liked that we, you had the opportunity to kind of set the current state and then kind of bridge, like Eric mentioned, kind of bridge the two. We don't typically promote things or we try to stay neutral, but I saw it. I thought it was different and unique. And I got to say, man, come to your own conclusions, but definitely I would reach out to Bill and at least do a demo and check it out and see if it fits your culture. The one thing, the culture of your store, the one thing that I'll say about, and I think you said it perfectly, Bill, but just to kind of reinforce it a little bit, the one thing I'll say about any technology, man, at the end of the day, they're tools, right? And if you don't use a tool, then it's not going to work, right? I mean, some tools are better than others, and it depends on whatever your objectives are at your store. But if I think this one is really a differentiator, has some differentiator qualities to it that I think are cool and different. And so I wanted to make sure that you had a moment to let folks know how they can get in touch, how they can look at a demo, how can they, if they're interested in taking a look at this, what are the next steps?
They can contact me via LinkedIn, Bill Schomburg. It's the same on both LinkedIn and Facebook. They can shoot me a text or phone call. My cell phone's 217-306-2555. And the real aspect, Lot Talk is definitely not for every dealer. I'm just going to say that out loud. The dealers who understand that the market is constantly changing and they're looking for a way to address the future. Because today, the mobile technology, everybody knows that everybody's got a cell phone computer in their pocket. What they don't realize, the generations that are coming up that are going to have the buying power, all of the aspects, that market's going to shift from 29 to 35% of the buying power in the next 2 years to over 80%, 70 to 80% in the next 10 years. Lot Talk may be one of the first tools to really change a little bit of that market. You hear the word disruptor, you hear the word evolution, revolution, whatever it is. We're just an incremental adjustment. And the fact that even our MVP, the rule in the MVP market is that your first launch is supposed to embarrass you 2 years from now. We're way ahead of that game, meaning there's so many things that we weren't able to achieve with our budget. Nonetheless, the dealers, a demo of our product takes about 5 to 10 minutes max. And we know within about 2 or 3 minutes of the demo starting whether or not the demonstration, whether that dealer is going to be a client, because they start asking the logical questions thought by someone who sees the power that you did, Herb. You did that same thing in our demo. And so that's why I say Simon Sinek classifies a market entry into 3 classifications. The first one is the innovators, the people who are forward thinking, and that's at every level. Because if the forward thinker is at the top, everyone in his organization, his or her organization, is going to have that thought process. It's natural. It's intrinsic. The next segment of the market are the early adopters. So the innovators lead the way. The early adopters pick up the slack. And those two things comprise between 12 to 13% of a market. Once you get to that top end, then the bell curve, that somewhere in there you develop your momentum, and that's what pushes things over the edge. We, from our experience, just the brief time that we've been in the marketplace, our 3-year projections are well within what we think is possible, and we're excited. We're in a seed round of investment at this point, and we were told by a group that's evaluating us, we have the most complete information packet they've ever seen. And we're pretty humbled by that commentary, but we have worked hard, very hard. Anybody that's ever done a startup, this is my 4th. They know what that means. We're by no means perfect, nor do we think we are. We're looking for intelligent people that want to give us honest feedback. Again, I'll reference the 2 of you, Sean Welsh, Sean Kelly, Jay Jensen, some other key LinkedIn people that is kind of neat how we connected with a really cool group of people, and they've served us and we've tried to serve them along the way, and it's turned out really neat.
Well, it just leads to so many other different areas too. I mean, it goes to this is a direct shoe-in for service too. I mean, this applies so much to the service department. I mean, you can talk directly to a tech and find out. I mean, there's just so many things that can be applied here.
Don't give away all our secrets. But you're dead on. Anybody that thinks that's a secret, those are natural progressions. And thank you for bringing that in too.
Hey, Bill, thank you so much for coming on the show, dude. This has been awesome. I can't think of a better way to start season 3. We just appreciate your time. And again, I'm glad that we were able to talk about this because I think that it's something very unique and cool. We're going to put your contact information in the show notes. So if you listen to this and you want to take a look at it, make sure to reach out to Bill and set up a demo. There's one question I ask everybody that comes on the show, and that question is, where do you see the automotive industry headed in the next 5 years, and why?
I see it. Gosh, I wish I could remember my answer from the first, but I think I'm pretty close. I see it much the same as it is today. So if you look at technology as kind of the wild, wild west and how we've gotten from 2008, 10 years later to where we are, there's another season of sorting out what's working and what's not. We've all heard the information about AI, machine learning, all those things. Way bigger companies with way more money than any of us will ever think about. They're working on those things. But the state of the car industry in the next 5 years, I don't see shifting so dramatically. Digital retailing is absolutely going to be a thing of the future, but how far in the future before it reaches that 10%, 20%, 30% of the market? I think those days are still a ways off. And so that's why we're still so focused. That's why we as a company are still going to stay so focused on the customer experience. If the online experience is replicated by the in-store experience, dealers will do well. And I just like to offer here at the end, you hear the words, I'm honored to be included in this. I love what the two of you have created. I've listened to every episode, some of them 2 and 3 times. Your guests have played a critical role in my learning curve and not making it any steeper than it has been. And I'm really grateful to be, we as a company, Lot Talk, I may be a spokesman right now, but we're incredibly grateful and honored that you would choose us again as this kickoff to your 3rd season. Congratulations on what you guys are doing.
Oh my God. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Without you guys, it doesn't happen.
That's Herb. I mean, I'd like to act like I've done something here, but I'm really good with coming up with ideas. But it actually takes a person to implement and follow through. And I get caught up in what my current position is. But Herb is the main reason why this is even still going. He deserves all the credit.
It takes a team. If I was responsible for coding Lot Talk, we still wouldn't have a product.
That's for sure. It's
a team effort for sure. The guests really make it, man. We're here to learn. So, man, again, Bill, I wish you guys all the success in the world. I want to check up with you guys maybe for season 4, see how things are going. Keep me up to date on the developments. I like to be involved in any way possible. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, we're super, super excited for season 3. Can't even believe that a year has gone by already. It's been tons of fun. And I just wish that we could do this every day, all day, because it's awesome. It's a joy. And as usual, we'll talk later. You made it all the way to the end. Congratulations. Thank you so much for tuning in. We truly, truly appreciate it. If you like this episode and you think of somebody that can benefit from this information, please make sure to share it. Share this podcast so that they can take these insights back to the dealership and implement on their day-to-day. Thank you so much. And as usual, we'll talk later.